The Galactic Council Chamber was a marvel of crystalline architecture, its soaring spires refracting light into impossible rainbows. Representatives from 317 advanced civilizations had gathered, their species diversity an almost overwhelming spectacle of colors, forms, and psychic emanations. At the center of the chamber, a colossal holoscreen displayed the final report from the Trial Worlds project, planets deliberately seeded with a variety of life forms to test how species would develop in extreme environments. The chairperson, a translucent entity known as Lixithar of the Tari Collective, adjusted its luminous tendrils in anticipation. Representatives, we convene today to evaluate the most promising candidates for the Interstellar Federation's first experimental membership, a civilization capable of overcoming adversity and achieving galactic cooperation. The reports are in, and I must say, the results are perplexing. A murmur swept through the assembly. Many species had prepared elaborate analyses of their own worlds and the trial planets. Most expected a civilization to meet the highest criteria of diplomacy, technological balance, and psychic harmony. Few could anticipate the anomaly that would soon become the focal point of discussion. Of the 17 trial worlds, Lixithar continued, 6 showed advanced problem-solving species emerging. However, one world in particular has exceeded all expectations in ways that are highly irregular. It is designated Planet 77b, colloquially referred to by the field teams as a death world. A holographic map blinked to life, showing a planet swathed in violent storms, jagged mountain ranges that spewed molten rivers, and a biosphere populated with predators of every conceivable kind. Lightning split the sky as enormous creatures, part insect, part reptile, swooped through turbulent clouds. The planet was an inferno. And yet, Lixithar said, voice reverberating with incredulity, the dominant species of 77b has not only survived but thrived. More importantly, they do so with enthusiasm. A projected recording flickered on the holoscreen, showing humans, slightly smaller than some of the alien representatives, with no bioshields, psychic amplification, or natural defenses beyond their own cunning and resilience. They were climbing a sheer cliff face while avoiding the snapping jaws of what field scientists had termed the razorbeak. One human leapt from a ledge, grabbing a liana-like vine to swing across a chasm as lightning struck the ground nearby. He landed, dusted himself off, and laughed. The chamber erupted in a mix of shock, fear, and disbelief. The Thalxians, a species of crystalline intelligence, hummed in agitation. This is reckless. How can a species with no inherent protective adaptations dominate such an environment? Lixithar's glow dimmed slightly. It appears they thrive on the challenge itself. When confronted with death, they do not hesitate. They innovate, cooperate under pressure, and most troubling, they enjoy it. The field team's term was having fun. The humans of 77b, as the council would learn, were indeed remarkable. Every week brought a new hazard, enormous storms that ripped through the continent, apex predators with intelligence rivaling some of the council's mid-tier species, poisonous flora that could corrode flesh in minutes, and tectonic activity that made the terrain unpredictable. Yet the humans adapted with astonishing creativity, climbing rigs made from indigenous materials, traps designed to outwit predators, and communication systems that evolved to coordinate survival strategies in real time. Reports indicated that, unlike most species that attempted survival in dangerous environments, humans actively sought out greater challenges. Dangerous expeditions were routine, and the larger the threat, the more enthusiastic their response. In simulations, their problem-solving speed and ingenuity consistently outperformed even the Council's most optimistic projections. And yet, Lixidar said slowly. They possess no unifying psychic link. Their technology is primitive in comparison to many of ours. Their physical durability is laughable. And still, they dominate their world through sheer audacity. A council member from the Glavari species, an amorphous entity capable of shifting shape, pulsed nervously. You're suggesting they rely entirely on personality? On courage? Yes, Lixidar replied, voice wavering in the sheer oddity of the revelation. They treat the universe as a playground and the threats within it as puzzles to solve. The Trial Worlds project was meant to identify candidates who would approach galactic governance with rationality and caution. Humanity, this species, has done nothing of the sort. And yet, objectively, they are succeeding. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The Council's measures of advancement, controlled experimentation, long-term stability, cautious expansion, were the antithesis of human behavior. And yet, on every metric of adaptability, survival, and cooperative ingenuity, humans scored off the charts. A field officer from the observing teams reported. Via hologram. We attempted controlled interventions, she explained. We sent automated predatory drones to simulate extreme challenges. Humans adapted. We imposed environmental catastrophes. They improvised shelters, redesigned tools, and, in several cases, eliminated threats entirely. They coordinate using signals, written symbols, and what appears to be instinctual problem-solving. One representative, the Lyran, known for their obsessive data parsing, interjected. But their population is small. Their technology rudimentary. Surely these are isolated successes. Random chance cannot produce consistent survival at this level. Another holographic clip played. A small group of humans stood at the edge of a volcanic fissure as molten lava surged nearby. A human woman yelled, "Race you across." And they sprinted, leaping across jagged rocks with near-perfect timing. When a rock gave way beneath one, another grabbed her arm mid-fall. She laughed, exhilarated, as they all tumbled safely to the far edge. The chamber's atmosphere turned incredulous. Many species were accustomed to studying nature with detachment. Witnessing beings that treated death as a game, that sought out danger for the thrill of problem-solving, was unprecedented. Lixidar cleared its throat. Let us not mistake this for simple recklessness. This species' methods are highly efficient. They maintain resource cycles, develop tools for survival faster than our projections allow, and show signs of societal cooperation that are, if I may, remarkably sophisticated. Emotional resilience appears to enhance, rather than hinder, their effectiveness. The Council convened a vote. Should humans be considered a viable candidate for Federation observation, or even preliminary inclusion? Voting drones recorded an unusual pattern: hesitation, confusion, fear, admiration, and ultimately, near-unanimous agreement. Humanity could not be ignored. A final field report summarized what the Council would come to recognize as humanity's defining trait: Deathworlders. That is what humans are. They are not the strongest. They are not the fastest. They are not the most psychic, nor the most technologically advanced. But they survive. They adapt. They collaborate. They create. They dare the impossible. And, astonishingly, they appear to enjoy it. Soon, humanity's exploits became legend. Not for political acumen or technological supremacy, but for audacious survival. Across the galaxy, the Trial Worlds teams reported countless examples. Humans constructing temporary bridges over chasms swarming with predatory insects, diverting floods with makeshift dams, and even negotiating with aggressive megafauna in ways no alien species could comprehend. One particular mission became iconic. A human scouting team discovered a chasm teeming with colossal predators. each capable of snapping a human in half in a single bite. They were trapped on the far side, with no obvious path to escape. Field observers expected mass casualties. Instead, the humans began fashioning harnesses, pulleys, and grapnels from local materials. Within hours, every member had safely crossed, and some had set traps to control predator movements in the process. When asked why they risked such a dangerous undertaking, one human reportedly shrugged. Because it's there. It's a challenge, and challenges are fun. The Council struggled to integrate these observations into their philosophy of interstellar advancement. Many delegates suggested that humans were anomalies, that they might collapse under sustained exposure to higher-order threats, that their approach was unsustainable. Yet every prediction failed. The humans learned faster, adapted quicker, and maintained morale in ways no other species had demonstrated. Eventually, the Council issued a formal decree. Humanity, despite defying all conventional expectations of survival, cooperation, and prudence, has demonstrated qualities uniquely suited to the unpredictable expanses of the galaxy. Their methods are unconventional, their motives enigmatic, but their results are undeniable. Humanity passes the trial world's test. In fact, the galaxy itself may have failed the test by underestimating them. News of this decision reverberated across the galaxy. Humans, still largely unaware of the Council's deliberations, continued their dangerous exploits on 77B. When they did hear, it was met with the usual response: laughter, disbelief, and then, perhaps, a new challenge. Some immediately organized expeditions to explore a nearby volcanic ridge. Others argued over the best way to trap a giant predator they had nicknamed the Shredder. Lixithar, in a follow-up address to the Council, reflected on the broader implications. We believed our models were comprehensive. We believed we understood survival, adaptation, and societal development. Humanity proves us wrong. Perhaps the universe rewards those who confront danger with audacity, who embrace uncertainty as opportunity, and who find joy in the struggle itself. Perhaps this is the missing equation in our understanding of advancement. Within a century, humans began spreading to other worlds, always dangerous, always unpredictable, always challenging the expectations of every alien species they encountered. They became known as Deathworlders, explorers who could thrive where no other species dared, who treated threats as puzzles, who approached life with the peculiar combination of fearlessness and joy that only humans seemed capable of. Other species could mimic their methods, but none could replicate their spirit. The Thalxians studied humans for decades, trying to decode the emotional mechanisms that drove their resilience. The Glavari attempted to replicate their adaptability with synthetic simulations, only to find that unpredictability and improvisation could not be hard-coded. Every attempt fell short. Humans did not merely survive, they evolved under pressure, and in doing so, they redefined what survival even meant. The galaxy would remember this lesson for eons. Intelligence, technology, and psychic ability were not enough to dominate the cosmos. It was courage, creativity, audacity, and yes, the ability to find joy in the impossible that mattered most. And so, in the annals of interstellar history, one truth became clear. The humans didn't just survive, they reshaped expectations. Over the next decades, their exploits became legend. They established colonies on worlds previously deemed uninhabitable, each environment more perilous than the last. Frozen wastelands with shifting ice fields, oceans that roiled with predatory leviathans, and volcanic plains that constantly threatened to swallow entire settlements. Each time, humans adapted, improvised, and thrived, always finding ways to turn adversity into opportunity. Other species watched in awe, fear, and admiration. Many tried to mimic human methods, emphasizing improvisation, encouraging risk-taking, or fostering small group ingenuity, but none succeeded on the same level. The humans had something intangible, a relentless audacity, an instinctive understanding that every obstacle was a game to be solved. Every danger was a puzzle, every challenge a thrill. On 77B, children learned from birth to climb, swim, hunt, and survive, but always with laughter. Elders passed down wisdom not as rigid instruction, but as stories of daring escapes, clever traps, and impossible feats overcome. Communities thrived not because they feared death, but because they respected it and embraced it when necessary. When the Galactic Council finally formalized humanity's membership, they expected deliberation, debates, protocols. What they received instead was audacity. The first human representative arrived unannounced in a small spacecraft that had no official clearance, piloted it into the council chamber, and dropped in a holographic message. "Hi. We heard you were testing us. We passed. Now, where's the next challenge?" It was met with stunned silence. Then laughter, tentative at first, then infectious. One by one, representatives realized the truth. These humans could not be contained, predicted, or restrained. They were a force unto themselves, and the galaxy would never be the same. Over time, humans became pioneers not only of survival but of diplomacy and innovation. Their unique approach inspired radical changes in galactic policy. Cooperative problem-solving replaced rigid hierarchies. Dangerous planets once avoided became training grounds for species seeking to improve resilience, and adventure itself was recognized as a legitimate metric of progress. But perhaps their most enduring legacy was philosophical. The galaxy had long believed that caution, predictability, and control defined advancement. Humanity proved that courage, creativity, and joy in the face of impossible odds were equally, if not more, powerful. It was a lesson repeated in every corner of the cosmos. True strength was not measured by power or control, but by the willingness to embrace life fully, even when death loomed at every turn. And so, on the eve of the first human-led interstellar expedition beyond their trial worlds, the Council convened one final time. Lixithar addressed the chamber. "We designed the trial worlds to test survival, adaptability, and cooperation. Humanity has surpassed all expectations. Not only did they survive, they have taught us that the universe rewards boldness, ingenuity, and the joy of living. The galaxy did not pass the test, but Deathworlders have, and they have done so with exuberant delight." The humans, aboard their ships, laughed and cheered as they departed, racing storms, dodging meteor showers, and improvising daring maneuvers with reckless skill. They thrived not because the galaxy allowed it, but because they refused to be constrained by expectation. Every world they touched became a proving ground, every challenge a playground, every obstacle a source of exhilaration. And in the chronicles of the galaxy, written and remembered by every species, one phrase became immortal.